speaking of group interest, like you've rightly described, you sought to represent a people that are not. What will you, in your own understanding, on your own estimation, encapsulate as the interest of Delta North that you felt was not subscribed to?
There are quite a number of them, but I believe that the interest of Delta North is almost the same type of interest with the greater Nigerian people. I will take one that touched me, the one I witnessed physically just about the time of the election. Now, almost along the whole line of Delta North, from the southern part to the northern tip, the River Niger goes across there. Yearly, that place gets flooded, and the pains of the people, the trauma of the people, the heartbreaking stories you hear of what happens when the River Niger overflows its banks is something that is supposed to touch our representatives. Now, what is holding that situation from getting a permanent solution? It is the people who represent everybody along the River Niger bank being interested in that problem being solved. If you are not interested in a problem being solved, the problem looks as if it's unsurmountable. But when you inquire, you find that that problem is actually surmountable. So you look at it. Maybe I may not go through too much into details about the solutions to it, but the solutions were obvious as we started making inquiries as to what can solve this problem. You see that one is dredging the river, dredging it down to the sea, and the second one is also going to build that dam that is supposed to be somewhere up there in the north, Dan Hassan Dam. Now, if those things, that's what I said about group interest. Now, is the interest of our people to see that the place is not overflooded? Is the interest of in the interest of the whole country that that dam is built? Because it has multiplier effects for even the people who are close to the dam. So if I am the senator, of course I will find out the person who is there, who is representing that neighborhood where they are building the dam. Support him to ensure that that dam is built, because it affects my people down the stream. So that's the type of thinking I was talking about, why I said that it is group interest. Now, personal interest will be how much do I make from either saying that the dam is made or it's not made, because some people are benefiting whether it is made or not made. That was what I meant by group interest superseding the interest of the individual. And we want in Nigeria where people begin to think more about the interest of the country, about the interest of the people, than the interest of the individual. So for Delta North, that was one of them. There are quite a number of them. I could count. Like I was talking again when somebody asked me, I said, people said that I'm very, very interested in education while I was campaigning. I talked about education because I saw the bad effect of neglect of our schools. They are beginning to pick up now, but there are quite a number of places where you find that most of the things that make people able to exploit our people is ignorance. If our people are knowledgeable, if our people are educated, you will not exploit them the way they exploit them ruthlessly. Because when you see what is being done, you will see that it's ruthless exploitation. How can you look at somebody, knowing fully well that this person is poor, that for him, he cannot reason too far beyond what you give him now? He collects 3,000 naira from you and mortgages his future and the future of his children. Yet they do it because they know that they are ignorant. Now, if we begin to educate our population, which was why I was interested, because each time I talk about education. If they educate our population and people are not as poor as they presently are, you will see that it will be more difficult to exploit them. And when it's more difficult to exploit the people, the country is forced to do what is right, because so many people know what is right. But when so many people don't know what is right, people who can manipulate people with money find it easier to do it. But I thank God for this present generation. People's eyes are being opened, and they will continue to be open until the money they used to influence people become totally useless in their hands, because you cannot eat more than you can carry in your stomach.
let's come back to, you are definitely in court trying to reclaim your mandate, if I'm guessing you right, or if I'm judging you right.
Yes.
What are your experiences at the polls, to start with?
I believe that the polls I was overwhelmingly voted for. I look at the whole scenario. You enter every local government, when you hear the exit polls, that's when people talk about what occurred directly at the polling units, you know Labour Party won. I know I won. And when you look at it, in some of the places, we won clearly, without any arguments, as they are unassailable. Then if you look at the places where they say I didn't win, you see that it has mutilated results. So there's evidence of manipulations even on the face of the document. So I believe I won. And without going too much into details about it, since we are in court, I also believe that in the court we will win. I have watched the lawyers do their things. I have implicit confidence in my lawyers. I've listened to them. I've seen the documents they filed. Well, I just believe that man can only do what he can do and leave the rest to God. But on the basis of the election, I won. I won in almost all the local governments. A few of them that I didn't win decisively, yes, the margins were not that much. But when you come down to the final results, I won. But however, what was published is what is published, and that is what is being used now, which is why we are in court, to see that that is corrected. Because if there's a heist, you can appeal to the court to intervene and see that justice is done, which is what I'm doing, and I'm just leaving it at that. I don't want to go too much into details about what's happening in the courtrooms.
That's it. You're a lawyer, and that gives me, or gives us a perspective on the Nigerian system. From the much you know, from the much you have seen, how much responsibility do you think is being placed on the judiciary in this democratic experiment?
For today, in this country, the judiciary has an awesome responsibility. It carries the hopes and aspirations of Nigerians in its hands. If the judiciary sits up to the responsibility, you know, ordinarily, the judiciary has always been the hope of everybody. It's the hope of the executive, it's the hope of the leader, it's the hope of the follower. Because ultimately, everybody must come to the judiciary for interpretation and for succor. In this present circumstance, where you see things are obvious to people going wrong, Nigerians look up to the judiciary to stand strong and ensure that Nigeria as a nation thrives. Because if law and justice thrives in a country, the country itself thrives. But where law and justice becomes bastardized, before long everything descends to anarchy. So that is why I believe that in this country and in most countries, the judiciary is extremely important. No matter how they are doing their job, they are extremely important to the growth and well-being of the country. So I believe that people should support them to do their work. And I believe that as much as possible, they will try to do what is right.
Let's move away from the polls, the law courts, okay, to your experiences cumulatively. What has this time shown you about Nigerians and their aspirations? Having gone through the electoral process, the people's disposition towards leadership, what has that taught you about people and their inclination towards how they are being governed?
You must recognize one fact. Nigerians have suffered a lot. They have suffered under bad leadership a lot. And people initially were, lethargic. They were reluctant to do much. They know that they are being misruled or being mishandled, but you just feel, what can I do about it? But in this present dispensation, with the young generation of today, they are not given any quarters. They believe they have a right to good leadership. And there's so much how far you can push them towards something that is wrong. And there will be a rebound. So as we go further, we believe that accountability will begin to increase in the country. If you talk about people's aspiration, without sounding immodest, I think that the Labour Party much more represent people's expectations of what should be the country's, what leadership should look like in the country. People want things to work. People want, if things are working, and that is one thing I've realized from watching people, if things are being done right, even the people who lose out find it easier to hold on to their loss and nurse it. What causes most of these things you see in the country is when people know that they are being robbed, that these things that we are seeing are not the things that ought to be. Then even people who should not ordinarily have something to say will begin to make inroads. Nigeria wants good leadership. I think that's what we want. We just want good leadership. Direct people. Do things. If they want to, if you say you want to do road. Let people be able to pass. If an area is insecure, provide security for the people. Nigerians are enterprising. In fact, if you put proper conditions available for the country people, not many people will be asking you to provide them government work. Just take a simple person now. A person went to go and learn welding. I'll give you an example, a simple example now. You went to learn welding. You finish doing it, then you come to start the work. In this my village here, NEPA will bring light, maybe at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and give it to you for 1 hour. And take it, and bring it again by 11 in the night, and take it before you wake up. That is not light. Now, if that person tries that welding work for some time and he sees that he's not able to survive on it, not because he's not hardworking, but because the condition for him to strive in it is not there, he will abandon that work. So we keep saying people are unemployed. People are not employed because they want to be unemployed. They are unemployed because the circumstances for them to thrive is not existing. That is why you see that we are keep hammering that let the government be populated by people who want to do the right thing. Because if they keep doing, if you hear the kind of figures they've used to put light in the country, if you hear the figures, sometimes it's almost giving you ear pain. That how can Nigeria spend this quantity of money and we have nothing to show for it? And you hear what it costs to do the same type of services in other countries. So what Nigerians seek for is just good governance. Put the correct conditions for them, they will thrive. If you want to know whether Nigerians will thrive, check whichever country we go to, where conditions are put in place. You see that we thrive everywhere. We thrive in Europe, we thrive in America, we thrive even in African countries here. We thrive everywhere except in our country because of bad leadership. You asked me before, why do I follow the things to be said? That is just it. In every place where he has put his hands, he shows that he can do it. And that's what Nigerians are looking for. That's why you see that he's being followed all over the place. That's why you see that even Labour Party is being followed. It's because of the fact that people know that these people want to do the things that is right so that the country may take its right trajectory.
Before we begin to look at letting you go, which I'm not immediately disposed to, let me ask, most of you, a lot of blame has been placed in your quarters. People within your own configuration are being seen to have abandoned the issue of politics and governance to a group of people, and then now they have established themselves and they're becoming impossible for outsiders to make inroads. What are your thoughts on that, and why did it take you long to find a reason to govern your people?
First and foremost, I did not set out to be a politician. I set out to run my business. I'm a lawyer. I practiced law for some years and thereafter deviated and entered into business more fully. But you see, when a country is not proper, you know, we Africans, we run an extended family system. If the government does not meet up with its obligation, the next line of responsibility falls on relatives who are doing a little better than the others. So you find that even if you as a person may not think that you are affected by whatever is being done, ultimately you must be affected. And you will see that that's why sometimes some of the politicians steal so much, because the weight of responsibility on them becomes much. That weight of responsibility, they should shed it and use it to do what is right. Once the country is running well, you will find that that weight of responsibility from you will reduce. For instance, now let me put it down in the more practical terms. Let's say up to 5, 6, 10 persons from your family require you to help them with school. If government provides education that is affordable, maybe that number will reduce to 1 or 2, or may not even be existing at all. Now, so I keep saying that it affects all of us. Previously, we keep quiet and we left it. And you know, sometimes you look at the trajectory of things and you just believe that because people have colonized that aspect, they have made conditions to be impossible. You know, politics in Nigeria is very, very expensive. It is the people who have stolen government money who made it that expensive. So they create all those conditions to make it impossible for people who are not aiming to steal to have a desire to do it. But because it's beginning to affect every other person, people who ordinarily would have been doing business, people who ordinarily would have been facing their profession, it's beginning to affect all of us. So people are determined. And I will tell you something, this movement, you know, when they say OB movement, it is not a thing that is about to end. As we are pursuing good governance all over the place, it's being pursued until it is established. Not until any particular day or time. It is until good governance is established in the country, all across board. Then maybe people will become less interested in it. But presently, those are the things that drove us into politics, to ensure that wherever it is possible to correct what is being done wrong, that we're able to put it down. Look at what is supposed to be done and do it, so that the country can be working for everybody.
So having experienced what you've seen in all of these, what are your advice to folks who still feel the need, who see the need for things to change, but have not been able to summon courage to dip their feet into the water and ensure that they become participatory in changing things?
I can assure you that people will begin to join. People will begin to join because they are seeing it. You know, if until you enter into it, you don't realize you don't understand the pull from which the leadership of the country is taking. That's the pull. You know, from the party members, they select, and from that they keep moving until you get to the presidency. If technocrats, intelligentsia, if all of them don't begin to make effort to be involved in decision making about things that concerns us, the quality of decision making will remain at the point where it is. But as much people start gathering, as more people start becoming interested in what happens to them, you will see that they will come in. Because nothing else stops the people. And fortunately, as the laws are evolving, some of the things that made it impossible before to join are being addressed. Rigging, for instance, now, you don't want to finish making your effort, and the kind of thing that is happening to me happens to you. You finish and you head to court and start doing all over again the work that you have done before. You think you have concluded. You now start from, but after time it will keep going because people are taking cognizance of the loopholes that are still left. There are still loopholes, but after a time now, you see that elections will be like the ones in foreign countries, where when you finish it, there's nothing to argue. It's either you won or you didn't win. Those are the type of things. And as we get towards that type of level of conduct of elections, you see that people will not hesitate to join anymore.
Lastly, what should your constituents, Delta Northerners, be looking forward to since you are in court?
I will tell them to keep hope alive, to hold on to the faith that mandate which they gathered and gave to me, and it's looking as if it is being attempted to be, there's an attempt to steal it, that it should not go in vain. The case is in court. We believe that justice will be done. So let them keep hope alive until decisions are made. I think that's just about it. I believe that the mandate will be recovered.
Thank you so much. It has been a buoyant atmosphere having this conversation with you. Looking forward to having more of this as we look forward to ensure that the right things are done in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.